Now at 5, Carthage authorities investigate the death of a worker in an industrial accident. Plus, the city of Joplin begins beautification efforts by replacing invasive trees downtown. And
after months of negotiating, Senate Republicans block a sweeping national security and border reform package. I'm Skyler Henry on Capitol Hill with what comes next.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Authorities in Carthage say a worker at a food plant died yesterday in an industrial accident. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. Around 3:45 yesterday, police received reports of a worker entrapped in a machine at the Schreiber Foods plant on Claxton Avenue. When they arrived, they found the man unconscious and not responsive. They called for a med flight, but before it got there, they declared the worker dead. Authorities are now investigating the incident as an industrial accident. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Doug Heddy for a first look at the weather.
Well, of course, it turned out to be another warm one, or mild one, for us today. Temperatures right back up into the mid-60s during the afternoon. A little breezy out there, but these winds are really going to get going as we go through the overnight hours tonight. So right now we got south winds sustained, mainly in that 10 to 15 mile per hour range. We've had gusts, kind of 20, upwards to 25 miles per hour at times, but these are going to be pushing 40, 45 by the time you wake up in the morning. Temperatures this evening, we slide back through the 50s. We only bottom out into the upper 40s later on tonight. A lot of clouds. We are tracking a weak little wave out to our west. There is rain falling, but a lot of this is not reaching the ground, but we may get a shower or two in here later on tonight. We're going to talk about all of this coming up here in just a bit.
See you then. Out with the old and in with the new. The city of Joplin is replacing the non-native Callery pear trees along Main Street as part of a beautification project. The project is funded by the citizen-approved proposition use tax and the associated beautification initiative efforts. City officials predict that project's going to take 6 to 8 weeks. They want to plant lower maintenance and more environmentally friendly trees.
So we're replacing them with more appropriate size trees, which are smaller type trees, more appropriate for a downtown streetscape setting. So I know there's some Japanese pagoda trees, lilac trees for specifically downtown.
The city first planted the Callery pear trees along Main Street in 2008. They're called a non-native tree because the species is originally from China and Vietnam. You can now watch a Pittsburgh native on the big screen. Will Jewett is one of the dancers in the new Mean Girls movie. The film was inspired by the Broadway musical of the same name, which in turn was based on the 2004 comedy film. Will's mom, Janice Jewett, is a PSU dance professor and has watched the movie 8 times already.
Support came so naturally. And then my dad took like one step longer. He came to a dance competition. And when the word competition gets put into something, my dad, former track and field cross country coach at Pittsburgh State, was like, oh yeah, I can get behind a competition.
His parents, we noticed that he had great rhythm early on, that he could carry a melody. He memorized lyrics after just hearing a song once.
This was Will's first time in a film. Soon he's going to be joining a Broadway show. While he still can't share details, he said he's going to be on the road for a year. We wish him well. After months of negotiations, a bipartisan bill negotiated between the White House and senators on both sides of the aisle finally came up for its first vote in the Senate. The bill, which would strengthen the border in exchange for military support for Ukraine and Israel, didn't make it very far. Skyler Henry has more details now from Capitol Hill.
The bipartisan bill to strengthen the border and provide aid for Ukraine and Israel died in the Senate Wednesday.
Senate Republicans have looked more and more like their House counterparts and transformed themselves into the Chaos Caucus.
Senators on both sides of the aisle spent more than 4 months negotiating the details.
We knew from the beginning it's not going to be perfect, but we also knew the status quo is untenable.
Despite Republican leadership backing the compromise, many of the rank and file were dead set against it.
I think a Republican leaders should actually lead this conference and should advance the priorities of Republicans.
The final straw came when former President Donald Trump slammed the efforts.
It turns out border security is not actually a risk to our national security. It's just a talking point for the election.
Even if the bill had passed in the Senate, Republicans in the lower chamber of Congress declared it dead on arrival in the House. Republicans are not passing the bill to address the border, but they're still planning to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas over his handling of the immigration issue.
The yeas are 214 and the nays are 216. The resolution is not adopted.
Even though they failed to impeach him on the first vote Tuesday night.
Mayorkas needs to be held accountable. The Biden administration needs to be held accountable, and we will pass those articles of impeachment.
Republicans fell one vote short Tuesday night, but they expect to try again when Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise is healthy enough to return to work. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Texas Democrat Al Green surprised Republicans when he left the hospital to show up and vote against Mayorkas' impeachment. Secretary of State Antony Blinken today met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to push for a new ceasefire in Gaza to end the war and get hostages out. Blinken also held talks with the president of Palestine. Hamas has presented a three-phase plan to stop the fighting, free hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners, and have Israel pull its troops out of Gaza. President Biden yesterday called the plan, quote, a little over the top, end quote. Still ahead, gearing up for the big game grub.
Whether it's wings, chips, or pizza, the Super Bowl is one of the biggest food days of the year. I'm Michael George with which snacks will cost you more this year.
And next in Health Watch, the numbers you need to know that could show an increased risk for heart disease. Topping today's Health Watch, a second round of flu activity is spreading across our country following the holiday season. The CDC says more than 16% of clinical lab samples tested positive for the flu for the week ending January 27th. That's up nearly 2% from the week before. Half of Americans have not had a flu shot, which health experts say could help prevent severe illness or even death.
These respiratory viruses like to plague us through February into March, and then that's when they really begin to recede. Not enough people really took the vaccine, and I would hope that people have a belated New Year's resolution to this fall, when we get into September and October, to get that flu vaccine, because it does help keep you out of the hospital.
The CDC says at least 20 million Americans have gotten the flu since October. February is Heart Month, raising awareness about the #1 killer of men and women in the U.S. Controlling risk factors such as high blood cholesterol and blood pressure is critical, but a new national survey shows many Americans don't know the numbers. Christian Benavides has more.
Despite being young and active, Erica Hudson has had high cholesterol since her 20s.
I was like, how is this possible? Having high cholesterol is because you're unhealthy.
She says she didn't want to take medication because she was starting a family. Then her father died of coronary artery disease when she was in her 30s.
It makes you think about things a little bit differently. Even though my diet and exercise was going pretty well, we needed to do more.
Most Americans don't know the numbers that can help predict heart disease. Less than half know their blood pressure or healthy weight, and less than 1 in 5 know their cholesterol or blood sugar levels, according to Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center.
If you know your numbers, you can really make a difference in your life.
For blood pressure, top number should be under 120, bottom number under 80. For blood sugar, less than 100, or a hemoglobin A1C of less than 5.7. For cholesterol, talk to your doctor about your recommended range of LDL bad cholesterol and triglycerides.
The other numbers that we look at is your body mass index, normal range, less than 25. Another important number, the recommendation for adults, is 7 to 9 hours of sleep.
Erica is now 37 with 2 children. She says cholesterol lowering medication kept her numbers good, not good enough. Doctors added another self-injected medication.
In my case, my family history, there's really nothing that I could do in my normal life to get those numbers down.
They're now in a healthy range. Christian Benavides, CBS News.
And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, our pet vet on call.
Hi, I'm Dr. Eva Dudek from Parsons Pet Hospital. Coming up, we got a fun fact about calico cats.
And we have a wind advisory in effect for you Thursday, and rain and snow in the forecast. Details coming up. Well, of course, another mild day for us today, bouncing right back up into the 60s for highs, and also the winds have started to pick up, especially this afternoon. Mostly cloudy skies, but a nice shot of indigo sky. Casino and Resort, of course, Indigo is just outside of Seneca, Missouri. But we are going to have these clouds sticking around as we go through the overnight hours tonight. Look at our temps. Most of us low to mid 60s. We were into the mid 60s a little bit earlier for us today. Going outside, here's 7th, here's range line, 63 south winds at about 10 to 15, but gust upwards of about 21 miles per hour. And those are going to move up as well through the evening. Sliding back through the 50s, but we're going to hang out upper 40s for overnight lows tonight, so it's not going to be near as chilly. All right, check out our winds. Southerly winds sustained, kind of in that 10 to 15 mile per hour range. And then if you look at our gusts on top of that, we've had winds gusting 25 upwards to 30 in spots, and those will continue to get moving as we go through the overnight hours tonight. In fact, by morning, look at this. We're going to have winds gusting 40 upwards of 45 miles per hour. These stay strong throughout the daytime hours on your Thursday. They come down a little bit, but still windy as we head into Friday. But we'll still on Friday have gusts in that 20 to 30 mile per hour range, meaning wind advisory in effect throughout the daytime hours for us tomorrow. Also, the humidity is going to be fairly low, especially once we get into the afternoon, so a little bit of a fire danger. All right, a lot of clouds out there for us right now. We do have a band of showers out to the west of Wichita, and these are going to head in our direction. And a good chunk of this is not even reaching the ground, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a few random showers in here late tonight into the morning hours. And then the next system out between San Fran and Los Angeles, which will start to affect us on Super Bowl Sunday. Let me walk you through time tonight. Clouds, random shower, trying to work through late tonight into tomorrow morning. We break out, we see sunshine tomorrow afternoon, mid to upper 60s already by noon, and I think most of us about 68 or 69 for an afternoon high, so really getting up there. Tomorrow night, pretty much clear skies most of the night. We drop back mid to upper 40s, and then Friday, we have clouds increasing during the afternoon, but again, we're going to go into the upper 60s during the afternoon. We are going to get a random shower late Friday evening, but most of Friday itself looks like it's going to stay dry. All right, day planner for you tomorrow, 54 in the morning, 64 by noon. High temp, 68 degrees. And let's jump in and take a look at Super Bowl Sunday. So on Saturday, it looks fine, but on Sunday, I know everybody's going to be inside watching TV, but a lot of people traveling to go to Super Bowl parties. Rain increases Sunday afternoon, but during the Super Bowl, we'll have to see if this starts mixing with and changing over to snow late Sunday and into Sunday night. Most likely accumulations as well. We'll talk a little bit more about that tonight at 6. 68 tomorrow, 67 on Friday, 53, a little bit cooler Saturday, and then the showers rolling in on Super Bowl Sunday, the high temp of 45.
Doug, thanks. Coming up, authorities say they found the source of lead contamination in popular applesauce pouches. Topping today's Consumer Watch, officials in Ecuador think they've pinpointed the source of lead poisoning in cinnamon applesauce packets sold in the U.S. They believe that lead originated from a ground cinnamon processor called Carlos Aguilera, which is no longer in operation. It's unclear how the lead got into the cinnamon, but one FDA official believes it was an intentional act. Some suppliers try to bulk up food sold by weight by adding substances like lead to it. Super Bowl Sunday is second only to Thanksgiving when it comes to the amount of food Americans eat. Food prices are higher this year, but that is not expected to slow down business at grocery stores and restaurants. Michael George explains.
As the Chiefs and 49ers prepare for Sunday, so does the offensive line of America's restaurants.
We call it our game day. We call it our big Super Bowl day.
Super Bowl Sunday is one of Domino's busiest days of the year, selling on average 2 million pizzas. Franchisee Giovanni Gera says they've been preparing for 2 weeks.
It's all hands on deck, down to our office staff. You'll find our office team members working in a store that day.
Whether you're placing an order or cooking at home, inflation has pushed up most food prices. The latest government numbers show dining out is up more than 5%. The grocery store isn't as bad, and one fan favorite is actually cheaper.
Wings are down.
Wells Fargo economist Michael Swanson says fresh chicken wings at the store are down 5%, and the frozen variety are 11% cheaper than last year. That's good news, with Americans expected to eat nearly 1.5 billion wings this week.
We see a continued improvement in the poultry sector, and that's really helped with the price of wings.
Chips will cost about 5% more, while guacamole prices are about the same as a year ago. And Swanson says it's always a good idea to shop for deals.
Supermarkets are aggressively trying to get people into their store.
We do very well.
Gera says with football viewership smashing records, they expect pizza orders Sunday may do the same.
When it's a big game this year, Kansas City, San Francisco, it's going to be a big day across the board.
An all-out blitz to keep football fans fed. Michael George, CBS News, New Rochelle, New York.
Domino's says America's most popular pizza topping on game day is the classic pepperoni. Our pet vet on call next. On the CBS Evening News, spotting fake Super Bowl merchandise ahead of the game. Then on KOAM News at 6, law enforcement agencies in Newton County and elsewhere struggling to keep employees. Plus, we're going to have more on efforts in Joplin to replace invasive trees downtown. And it's National Signing Day for college football. We're going to see which local high school standouts are headed to the next level. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. Domestic cats have a wide variety of coat colors and patterns, the result of various genetic combinations. Well, our pet vet on call today has a fun fact for us about calico cats.
The gene for the color combination of orange with another color is on the X chromosome. And it takes 2 X chromosomes to produce the calico pattern. And we all know that 2 X chromosomes is a female. So a calico cat will almost always be a female.
Hey, we invite questions from anyone. If you have a question, just send it to petvet@koamtv.com. Dr. Eva Dudek from the Parsons Pet Hospital answers a different question, or as in this case, brings us a fun fact every Wednesday on KOAM News at 5. You can also find answers to previous questions on our website. Chosen a couple of cats as our picks of the litter for the week. From the Joplin Humane Society, we have this domestic long hair, an adult female. Her name is Brenna. And from the Southeast Kansas Humane Society, a 10-month-old domestic short hair male named Mikey. The society says he's full of energy, loves to play, but needs a home with no dogs. Thank you very much. If you're looking for a pet, why not check out your local Humane Society? Beautiful animals there always.
Absolutely.
The weather looking beautiful.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. We'll drop back upper 40s for us tonight. Back to 68 tomorrow. Now, very windy. We're going to have winds gusting 40 to 45 at times, especially tomorrow morning. And then still breezy on Friday, a few showers during the evening hours. And then rain possibly over to snow on Super Bowl Sunday. Of course, a lot of people will be out driving to Super Bowl parties, so something we'll have to keep our eyes on.
Those roads could be a bit slippery. They need to be aware. Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. And of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. See you then. Let's make it a great evening.